Do you enjoy the weather? What about space weather? What about sci-fi space weather? Cosmic Storms, the second DLC to be announced for the 2024 season of Stellaris, finally has shown itself, and I am instantly slightly concerned. The expansion brings deeper space weather mechanics into the game, whereas previously we had galactic terrain and storms and everything around that, and that deepens things a little bit. Cosmic Storms seeks to further build on the concept by adding deeper mechanics behind them, and in itself that's not a bad thing. I personally have just not ever been a fan of the storm system within the game itself, but I'm trying to remain positive here, and I'm going to assume that the system relies more on galactic terrain rather than the randomness of storm. But then again, maybe weather control is a thing, so we will see. So the expansion itself will be introducing a wide variety of storms, whereas right now we just have the one, technically two if we count Satana. But in this particular DLC we will get celestial, electric, gravity, magnetic, particle, solar, and all these storms seem to be moving across the map in the weather system that is part of the galaxy. And also every single storm has different effects on your planet. So for instance, electric storms improve technician output whilst reducing farmer output. Gravity improves alloy production, magnetic improves mining, particles improves unity, solar improves energy production again, so there's multiples of those. That's kind of weird. But all of these still generate the same reductions that we saw previously, like reduced sublight speeds, impacted shields, reduced weapon ranges, and that sort of thing. And it's kind of cool to see all these things, but once again, I'm kind of concerned about the randomness of storms of what we had in the past versus what is being proposed here. Now, the storms themselves can be tracked on a new map mode, which you need to unlock. One of the new species types actually starts off with it, which is kind of cool. But there's also 3 new civics that directly tie into these storms. So you got astrometeorology, which is a science-based Empire civic that basically has a special pop job for researching on storms. And then if your empire is within a storm, you get more science. And then there's storm devotion, which is more of a spiritualistic civic that attracts storms to their territory using storm dancers. So, if you want to dance with the worm, now you can also dance with the storm. They also get the storm touch trait, which gives them additional resources and apparently reduced amenity consumption during storms. So they're all about being in the storm itself, not the eye, just the storm. Planetscapers, which is a more storm-related terraforming thing. I think we don't have a lot of information on this particular one, but Planetscapers usually already implies that there is terraforming involved here, which could be interesting. I do like mechanical stuff around terraforming, and who knows, we'll see what it is. Maybe they'll do terraforming with storms, because yes, these storms themselves do change the terrain on your planets, likely creating new blockers and planetary features, as well as archaeological sites and that sort of thing. So that could be really interesting, so we'll see how that goes. And then finally, there's an origin called Storm Chasers, which get the special Storm Rider leaders. Don't know what they do, but they get a bunch of additional unity production and have an increased chance of storms within their territory. They get storm technology more often because, yes, there's new technology surrounding storms. They're apparently adrenaline junkies, which is a very interesting species hat to wear. I wonder how this is going to go, so we'll see how that is going to work. 2 new precursors, which for me is like the big one, plus relevant relics. We haven't had precursors since Distant Stars, when the Baul and the Zeroni were introduced, and that's years ago. So new precursors, very exciting. New anomalies, archaeological sites, as I mentioned, an Ascension perk. There's Galcom with a bunch of interactions there, and like I said, it releases on September 10th for $12.99. So we got to talk about a couple of things here. And that is that I am deeply concerned about this, because storms have always been a random thing that pops up about, say, I want to say like 100 years into the game. You got Vlur, who has his own storm coming with him and that sort of thing. But it's always been random. And if you do not get the opportunity to control storms, then this could be very problematic. I would not be surprised if there's going to be like star-based buildings that you can have that will disable storms in systems, similar to how right now you can have the Psystorm, I think it is, in your space if you're going down that path. But yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how people are going to be responding to a semi-random mechanic that just floats around space and trying to beat that. And also if it gets introduced pretty early on, especially with storm chasers having a higher chance or of it basically spawning next to their territory, it is a bit concerning. But this is the thing, if this is being handled like a mobile terrain modifier, similar to, say, some of the stars, which have their own modifiers themselves, and you can get some sort of control over the storms, then I'm not too fussed, because it could be really interesting. It's not like astral planes where, oh, here's an astral thing that you can do. You can choose to interact with it, and it doesn't really have all that much impact on the global scope of the game. Everybody has to deal with storms in this particular expansion, and it's, of course, it's mechanically focused, so it adds another layer to the galactic interaction within the game. And on top of that, it leans on top of the underlying principle of Stellaris. The galaxy is full of terrors, but also wonders and that sort of thing. So I think that's really interesting. I think it's going to have significantly more impact on the game, as I already said, as like astral planes, which has not been reviewed very good at all. But I do think that there is going to be people out there that will want to have access to a lot of the content here, but don't necessarily want to deal with the storms themselves, because once again, it could be a random mechanic. In the next 4 weeks, we'll be finding out whether or not that is going to be the case, and who knows what is going to happen. I'm remaining positive here. I think that Stellaris could definitely use another layer of high-level, far-reaching, impacting systems, similar to, say, like trade routes, which definitely also need a little bit of love. So maybe let's get onto that paradox. But having storms going around the galaxy with weather as a mobile modifier could be really, really interesting. And combined with the technology behind it to further leverage it, or maybe even disable it, depending on what direction you want to go, could be really, really cool. What do you think? Do you think that this is something that is interesting for you? Do you want to deal with the weather? Are you afraid of a little bit of water? Because let's put it this way, my back garden is currently under about a foot of it, which is not really fun. But still, you know, what are you going to do about it, right? You can pump and use your technology to fix the issues, which is what I feel is going to be the thing here. Yeah. I'm very curious how everything is going to go. Like I said, what do you feel like? Do you want to, this is something that is interesting to you? Let me know down in the comments below. I'm going to go and wrap it up here. And like I said, in the next few weeks, we're going to be talking more about this update. And who knows what is going to happen beyond that. Thank you so much for watching. And thank you to my patrons. And until next time, take good care of yourselves. And as always, each other.